Hi AJ, so we're back here for your observation meeting.
Okay.
All right. So, in general, how did you think your lesson went yesterday?
It went pretty successful. For the most part, I can tell that of all the different ways that I've been teaching how to understand multiplication, I think the skip counting is the least effective. My group of kids just don't seem to really like that way, and they're not really grasping it. So I know that tomorrow I'm going to have to reteach the lesson in a different way to see if they can understand it a little bit better.
Okay. Is there anything you felt you did specifically well?
I know the kids, when I got up and I modeled how to do the skip counting, and I jumped in front of the kids and I went all the way across the classroom. It's me being silly, but it got the kids engaged because they're third graders, and so I think that was helpful for them, and they're like, oh, we can do it that way, and just I'm really into muscle memory and doing kinesthetic things to help learn, so I think that was helpful towards understanding what skip counting meant. It's just fine-tuning it a little bit, I think I need to do.
Okay, and is there anything you felt that could be improved throughout the lesson yesterday?
I think I repeated myself a lot, and I kept going. The words and the phrases that I was using weren't being effective, and I was having a hard time finding another way to rephrase it for the kids to understand.
Okay. So, your kids really enjoyed when you did the jumping stuff. That kept them engaged because it was something that they were up and moving. And then you feel like you repeated yourself a little bit too much. Not that the repeating is a bad thing. You just weren't using effective language for your kids. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm going to go through some of the specific things that I saw and collected evidence on. And like we talked about in your pre-observation, I was going to be looking specifically for transition times, and then students that were on task or off task based off of what you considered on task.
Okay.
So what I found was when I got into your classroom, you were just getting ready to transition into the math lesson. And so transitioning the kids into that lesson and getting started took you 4 minutes. So that's a little bit longer than what you would like.
Correct.
You did the group share, and 3 out of the 5 groups that you had share did use the intended vocabulary you wanted them to use when they were doing their explanations. So the kids were using products and factors like you wanted them to when they presented.
Mm-hmm.
So transitioning from desks to the carpet did take quite a bit of time. They had an 8-minute transition period from the time that you said, okay, we're getting our whiteboards and markers and going to the carpet.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Reviewing the rules is really important, especially at that level, so I get that, but it did take you about 3 minutes to review all of those rules and make sure that your scout was fully prepped and ready to go on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you were actually at carpet time, so you were on the carpet for a total of 20 minutes, you did have a few talkers, and there were about 3 to 5 students that talked continuously, and you did have to redirect them, and you redirected verbally 5 times within that 20-minute period. And then there were a few students that were continuously copying the students next to them, and they weren't actually drawing the number line and going through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was noticing when that happened is you generally had your back turned to kids, or you were moving around and away from them at that point in time, just as a information for you. And you already kind of noticed that the skip counting is really hard for the kids to grasp.
Yes.
And you're going to go ahead and reteach that with them, because most of the kids did actually stay behind to have more direct instruction with you on the carpet instead of going and doing the workbook pages.
Right.
So, okay. So that was the specific evidence that I collected. Are there any questions on those things?
No, I think I'm right there with you.
Okay. And I would say, so looking at different things as far as teaching, having your back turned isn't necessarily the best. And you talked about wanting to improve on transition times. if we could maybe brainstorm some signals to use instead of stopping those kids verbally and redirecting, if we could brainstorm some other things to use as part of like our next step to improve on that.
Okay.
I would call that a win for today. So what do you think we could come up with as far as a signal to teach these kids for redirect?
I think just because they're still a little younger, something that can easily get their attention. So maybe like snaps or claps or something like that, because it'll kind of not scare them, but it's loud enough to redirect without using a verbal prompt.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't really know. I'm not quite sure on what other nonverbal cues I could use.
So what about when you're like moving around? What are some nonverbal cues that you could use with your students when you're up and moving around but they're still seated?
I could just a gentle tap on their desk, or just putting my hand on their desk, let them know like, hey, I'm watching you, but without me actually saying, hey, I'm watching you. Or maybe even like a gentle like tap on the arm, or depending on the student, if I feel that would be appropriate or not with them.
Okay. Do you have your look?
No, I haven't established my look yet.
All right. Because that is, especially like in carpet time, and that could be something to use, is establishing that look. And a lot of times it's just making that direct eye contact with the kid and going, like, oh, that's me. So we can try and work on establishing that look.
Okay.
All right, so you have that. And then some things, so those are little things that kids are kids, they're gonna talk. But definitely working on your transition times, because that is taking up a lot of your time.
Right.
For sure. So what are some things that we can come up with for transition times?
Well, we've been working on it. We have because I have the baskets, and I have a person who is in charge of the supply baskets that have the whiteboard markers in there and not have the whiteboard erasers in there. And so we've been working on trying to get the person who's in charge of supplies for each group, they quickly hand them out instead of all 6 of them in their groups trying to go for it. So we've been trying to work on that and hoping that's a little bit more efficient.
Okay.
Other than that, I know that it's hard because it's a small classroom and 30 kids, sometimes there's a little bit of a traffic jam. Maybe I could develop groups 1 through 3 go to the carpet this way, groups 4 and 5 go this way, and group 6 you go this way. And that way maybe that'll kind of help make it go faster instead of them getting stuck. And then of course, little kids being little kids want to push and shove each other, and then it just domino effect.
Okay. And have you tried using like an actual timer with them?
Yeah, but my timer broke.
Okay.
So I have
I guess that would deter you a little bit. Because sometimes if they can see that timer, know oh hey, I only have 30 seconds to get to the carpet now. Because you could do like a smartboard timer and have it up there nice and big that they could see. A timer could be a really good option, and it's even if it's just like an online timer or something, that they can actually get that visual countdown of I have this much time left.
Okay.
Overall, I really liked your lesson. I think you did a good job. The kids did seem to really like the movement aspect of the skip counting. It might not have gone 100% the way you planned, but it was a really good lesson. I think you have some good ideas. Do you have any questions for me?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. Well, so we will continue throughout the year with this process. So this was your first observation, and you'll have one more planned observation where we go through this full process of the pre-observation, observe, post-observation, and then 2 unannounced observations where we just stop by for a little bit, and then we will sit and talk about what we see and do a post-observation for those drop-ins, and we will go from there.
Okay.
Again, if you ever have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Done.